We'll call the meeting to order of Kingston Springs Regional Planning Commission for October 13th, 2022. And we will have a roll call of voting members. Keith Allgood, I don't see him. Tony Campbell, not here either. Tony Gross.
Here.
Mike Hargis is absent today, I know. Lauren Hill. Here. Brian McCain. Let's see Brian. Mike Patno, that's me here. Chuck Slater.
I'm here.
Todd Verhoeven. Here. We have 5. That's good. Non-voting staff, Sharon Armstrong.
Here.
John Lawless.
Here.
And Jennifer No.
Here.
Okay. All right. So we have a quorum. You have the October 5th public hearing minutes in front of you. Do we have a motion to approve those?
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, public hearing minutes are approved. Do we have the motion to approve the October 5th Planning Commission meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, those are approved. And you have the agenda for today in front of you. Do we have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So at this point, we're at the community input part. Is there anybody here who wants to provide input to the Planning Commission? Hearing no, or not hearing anything, I'll move on to the next part. Old business. Item 8A, Golf Club of DBI, site plan review for pump house consideration of expansion of special exception upon approval of revised PUD agreement and filing of signed use and easement commitment letters and agreements. John, are you leading off? Sharon, are you leading? Okay.
In front of you, you have this document. We do not. And, well,
On the way. Soon to be in
just
front
a
of
second, you will have those documents, and you will share. Don't mind. Thank you. I stand corrected.
My own? Wow.
All to yourself.
All my.
Not as many big pictures.
All right, these are separate documents, separate entities. The only one that we're dealing with on this item is this one. Okay. So there's no confusion.
There we go.
All right, we're ready? All right, thank you, sir. The Golf Club of Tennessee and the Golf Club of DBI have a couple of areas where there will be shared facility use, that being the water intake, which you're familiar with, that was part of the subject for the TDAC permit, and the flood study that we did a few months ago. The other shared use will be an easement across DBI's property for the water line from the water intake across DBI to serve the Golf Club of Tennessee. Those have also been discussed in the past. Those agreements, John, are the letters and the agreements in front of them in the pack? The letters of the
No.
Okay. The Golf Club of DBI and the Golf Club of Tennessee have separately and jointly drafted letters of intent for the shared usage of this property for DBI. So I'm trying to keep the two entities separate except for the use of that easement. The easement agreement has been drafted, has not been signed, and has not been recorded as of yet. So in order for us to permit the activity that will provide the usage of the water line to the Golf Club of Tennessee, we need an easement between the parties because they are separate entities on the parcels. So we have reviewed it, the engineer has reviewed it, we find no issues with the actual location of the water intake or the pump house or the line location. However, It is an expansion of use for the PUD agreement. As you know, we have kind of a running tab with the PUD for DBI as they make changes and as things go up. So the site plan that's in front of you, the master plan that's in front of you for this, is the subject of consideration for this particular item tonight. Staff recommendation is that you approve this with a condition. The condition being that once the easement is recorded and all parties have signed it and it's recorded, just as we did for Mr. McPherson and the Downs property, that they supply a copy of that to the town for our records. We can then use that to finish updating the PUD agreement between DBI and the town of Kingston Springs. So is everybody following the process? If you're not, please ask questions. I think we're all fairly familiar with the project, but this is necessary in order for us to issue a permit for the location of easement, just as we would for any other project. If you're going to do work on someone else's property, you have to have an easement to do that. So that's the purpose of this item, for DBI only. So staff would recommend that you consider approval of this, and the motion will need to contain information that the site plan, master plan update as presented will be approved conditional upon the provision of a signed, recorded easement agreement between the parties.
All right. Does anybody have questions for Sharon?
Is that agreement kind of, I mean, I assume it would be more or less a cookie cutter language in terms of what the, the easement will.
It is.
da, da,
The
da, da, da,
easement,
da.
yes, it is. We actually have reviewed the easement. The city attorney, Martha Rook, has reviewed it, found it to be legally compliant. It's just a matter of getting it signed and recorded, and also with a further condition that permits cannot be issued until that is recorded, because we need it to allow access for the permit. Okay.
Anyone else? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Passes as you said, conditional.
Thank you. And then the second part of this is, again, an easement agreement on the Golf Club of Tennessee property, because the Golf Club of DBI needs some shared access to complete some of the work on that property. This also, I also need, we can do this several different ways. As you know, there's been multiple discussions about rezoning portions of the Golf Club of Tennessee property because of the commercial use in some areas. We have three paths we can take to accommodate those expanded uses, which at this point can include offices and a largely expanded maintenance facility. So we have three paths we can take. The path that staff is recommending is that you, with the approval of their master plan, because you have three paths. One is to rezone. One is to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals and ask for an expansion of the special exception that was originally granted to them to include these other uses, because they were granted that special exception. I'm asking you to reach back almost 2 years now. As a country club within a residential zone, and that country club definition is very specific in what it allows. So staff, and we all met, John, Martha, Brooke, and I don't want to expand the definition of a country club on a broad scale to all of R1A, because this is a very specific type of development. So the third path is for you to approve the master plan. If you have a planned master plan for development, you can approve the special exception expansion to offices and to the expanded maintenance facility by approving the master plan in front of you. This has been engineer reviewed and staff reviewed and found to be compliant. It also will be the subject of the mutual agreement of intent letters that have been filed with the city and reviewed by the city attorney and myself and the city manager. So the motion for this one, if I might make a suggestion, is just simply approval of the plan. We don't have to list the uses, we just need to approve the plan as presented in front of you on this master plan.
I move for approval of the master plan for Gulf Coast, Tennessee.
Second.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Any opposed? Okay, master plan approved.
And as a notation, until the agreement is, the easement agreements are filed, we can't issue permits because we have to have permission for them to use each other's property. That's all we have on this item.
Okay, so that's completion of item 8A.
That's correct.
Okay, item 8B, Ellerslie HUD Subdivision Energy Fit Solutions, Inc. Update and next steps, filing a performance bond with the town of Kingston Springs and execution of HUD agreement.
As the planning commission remembers, we brought you the draft HUD agreement at the last meeting. That was all approved. And I believe the city manager was in communication, has been in communication with the applicant, Energy Fit Solutions, in your packet. Did they have this?
That's just coming this afternoon.
An email came in, John was inquiring as to when we could expect the performance bond because we can't finish the HUD agreement until it's supplied. And there was an email received from the bonding entity that they're working with, that it could take several more weeks for that to occur. They had some other questions about the applicant that they needed in order to underwrite the performance bond. And I believe a question was asked by Mr. Merville whether or not we would be willing to accept a performance letter of credit. My recommendation would be no. They are notoriously difficult to execute when needed. We had a letter of credit on the project previously, and it's a very difficult thing to work with.
This has been a long road to go down. I'd rather just do it correctly the way we agreed to prior.
Is there a timeline we can hold them to?
Well, we will continue, John and I, to monitor and try to encourage them to close this as quickly as possible. I think they indicated that they were anxious to get started on their project. We can't allow them to do the earthwork on the vacant parcels until a performance bond is in place. So the ball is effectively in the applicant's court at this point.
So Sharon, is this then simply an update on where we are with it?
No, we keep these, if you notice, the Golf Club of Tennessee, the Ellerslie PUD, and Mr. McPherson remain under old business. We
Okay.
leave them as a standing item,
Okay.
so we don't forget to advertise.
Right.
And we update you every month on their progress, but there's no action to be taken on this tonight.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
good.
All right, so item 8C, the Roy B. McPherson, 115 East Kingston Springs Road, updated next steps, consideration of sewer plan approval.
Do you have the plans? I'm sorry. I took the plans to review them, and then I brought them back when we got done. Mr. McPherson has submitted his sewer plan and utility plan to the town of Kingston Springs. City engineer has reviewed it. Comments were sent, comments were addressed, and it's come back, and all the revisions have been done. I checked it today to ensure that everything's been done. So this is simply a straightforward approval of the sewer plan. Once this is done, and it's all private, if you remember, up to the point they connect to our lift station, it's their sewer system, not ours.
Actually, to clarify that, not even connect to our lift station. The lift station will be on their property.
They
The
own
only
the lift station.
connection they have with the town of Kingston Springs is where their main connects to our main. That's the only time the town is involved.
So they'll own and maintain the lift station as well?
That's
Correct.
correct. With PUDs and developments that serve no public benefit, we can't invest taxpayer funding in that. So, I apologize. But these have been vetted and reviewed by everyone involved, so they are ready to go. We have a large set here. I apologize for having to approach, but I do want you to see that the sheets 301 is the sewer plan. And we can share that with everyone. These are just the calculations that the engineer plan can check.
So this is just one set of
One
plans?
sheet.
Does anybody want to come up here and,
Once this is approved, we will then draft a letter for this project to TDOT, and it will move forward
There it is.
for them to go under for the connection, under T-Dot's road.
So the lift
There's an
station,
additional set, if that will help.
could you come up and show us
Sure.
that?
And I believe the engineer is
This is
here.
the lady's house, so.
I guess Mr. McPherson, who indicated they were coming tonight, has not arrived, so we get to have.
That's my only question. So we can always, if anything happens.
We're all here, so.
Yep.
Old age is terrible, I'm just reminding all of you. Question?
My only question is, that house that's just down below, the
Ely's house.
Ely's house, how close is this to her house?
You're probably, and there's a significant slope,
Yes.
there's
Right.
a swell where the water goes, so that's already been graded
Okay.
and taken care of. We have seen through, I've checked the last 5 significant rains that we've had, no water impact in the seep.
Okay,
They
good.
did enough staging here, enough large rock to hold it, and they're still not done the compacting over there, so that's still an ongoing process. But if it escapes a lot, trust me, they will know it escaped
Okay.
a lot.
So this sits up high?
Yeah, it does.
It hits up where all their fill is coming in, so
That is
it doesn't
correct.
sit down by her, so
No, it
noise,
does
any issues with it's not gonna affect her?
Absolutely not. The lift station's on their property, and then it goes under the road to connect to our pipe on the other side, which is the reason TDOT requires a letter from us, because they're going under their road,
Okay.
their permit, their issue. As we discussed in the past, when you have a subdivision, it's planned unit development or not, if it's under the confines of an HOA and there's no public benefit within that subdivision, we cannot invest public dollars. That has to be their baby.
Good.
So John and I, the engineer, have worked really hard to eliminate any impact surrounding property owners and to eliminate any impact to the town as well.
That's one question I have.
This is Plan Revolution 7.
It's been a while.
Dot 862.
No, I was just saying,
Yeah.
it has to be right, it has to align with what TDOT needs, it has to align with what we need, it can't conflict with electrical, it can't conflict with gas, all these things have to be done. The calculations, I ran them on tech sent to the engineer to make sure our numbers would match, and they did, so they've gotten everything addressed that we've asked for. We've been really picky to make it right, because once it's up, it's running in the state.
Any other questions for Shannon?
Staff recommendation is approval on this, and to grant us approval to draft the letter for TDOT that they require based on the approval of the
So do we have a motion on this?
I make a motion to approve it.
Second.
Okay, and as you stated, Sharon.
That's correct. The sewer plan as presented and revised.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that's approved. Now, okay, are we complete with old business? It
We
looks
are
like.
done with all
Okay.
business.
So moving on to new business now. Item 9A, Patel, 121B, Lyven Hills Road. Change of use from restaurant to liquor store and consideration of revised site plan.
In your packet, I'm sorry, I was asking John if we have a good one. You have a site plan in your packet for Patel. If you remember, this is the Sunoco location where the new convenience store was constructed. At the time Mr. Patel last saw us, he wanted to put a restaurant in there. That has kind of somewhat fallen by the wayside. He now wants to locate a packaged liquor store. Everything remains the same on the site plan. Just the parking requirements are exactly the same as they would be. Actually, they're less than they would be for a restaurant. There are no other issues. Signage location is already dictated on the plan, so this is simply a change in use. In order for him to be allowed to do that, and he's in process with the city for the liquor license, he has to have an approved site plan. So I see no issues with it. If at the point, John, do you have concerns at all? The only question I would have, the planning commission and of the city manager and of the city attorney, we already have a drive-through window on the convenience store side, on the building. So they have a drive-through. They can go around and get things through the window. Is there resistance to having, I'm a little concerned about having two drive-throughs, you know, one for the package store side and one for the other. Would that be an issue for you? 'Cause,
Are
yeah, you
drive-through
can
liquor stores in Tennessee even?
have- Yep.
I don't think they're legal.
I don't think
They are
they're legal in the
Kentucky.
state of
You
Tennessee.
can't, okay, so we're good. That isn't even an issue. I just needed to ask that question.
They were for a while, I think.
They are in
actually
Kentucky,
Prohibited them.
but not
They're
in
in
Tennessee.
Kentucky, but I don't think they are here in Tennessee, and if they
I
are in
moved a few
Tennessee,
when I was
the
in
ordinance
college.
doesn't
That was a
allow
whole
that.
different
All
ballgame.
right, good. So the reason I'm asking is they have one in Chattanooga, and that's what made me think of it. So they do have one in Chattanooga, so.
I remember one in Nashville,
There's
like
one in
2000.
Chattanooga. It's been there a while. It may be grandfather's, the reason I'm asking. So I would be really uncomfortable with having two drive-throughs on one lot. I have advised the contractor that they will have to eliminate the doorway between the two parts of the building that exist now because state law prohibits any
Right.
interaction between the convenience store and the liquor store. So that discussion has been held. And other than that, and they will have to have a bathroom on that side for employees. So there's a bathroom on the convenience store side, but they'll be required to put one in because they can't go through the door to get to the bathroom on the other side. I guess they could come out, lock the door, go in the other side, but then the liquor store is unattended during opening hours. So I've advised them that they will, if they want a bathroom on that side and they're required to have one for their staff, they'll have to put it in.
So that door has to be removed?
Permanently
and-
closed.
and
It has to be
closed.
permanently closed. State, and it's not our law.
Yeah.
State law prohibits them from making egress, ingress from one side of that building to the other, so it has to be completely eliminated.
All right,
Other
so,
site plan, recommend approval.
all right.
So moved.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nope.
Okay,
If we could, Mr. Chairman, I apologize, there are two things here. The change of use has to be approved first,
okay,
and then the site plan has to be approved after.
okay.
So if we could amend our
Okay.
motion.
I make a motion to approve the change of use.
Second.
All right. All in favor on the change of use?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, change of use
Then site.
approved. Now the site plan. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to revise the site plan.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So those are both approved. Next item, 9B, Tyler Technologies, East Kingston Springs Road, consideration of site plan. Do we do that before we do the design review, right? Correct. This is an item before that, okay.
And then we'll recess, and then we'll recommend something to ourselves, and then we'll.
Accept our recommendation.
We don't take our own recommendations. We never, not taking our own recommendations.
That's the same stuff.
This is much smaller. This is the actual site plan, this is the the site plan, but we do have some copies.
Thanks, John.
This one is a large graphic, the other is largely construction plans, so they just kind of all come in a pack.
Okay, is this behind the Sonic?
It is.
Okay.
This is Tyler Technologies. We are joined by the applicant's team tonight. Staff received these. They were sent out along with a traffic information study.
Okay.
For review, traffic information study was revolutionized a couple of times. A little more information was in there, and it is found to be compliant. So there will be some increased traffic on off-site, as you might expect. We did ask them on the site plan to move the driveway down as far away from the intersection of Liven Hills Road as they possibly could. None of this rises to the level of a cataclysmic traffic issue that's going to show up in a traffic study. It just simply doesn't. There's going to be increased traffic from any development, but not to the level that's going to lessen the ability of people to move. So the site plan itself meets all of our requirements. It's been reviewed by the city engineer and by the planning staff and found to be compliant. Staff recommendation is that you approve the site plan.
Okay. Any questions on this site plan? Okay, do we have a motion to approve it?
Move to approve.
Second?
Second.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the site plan is approved. Now we're going to recess, correct? Okay. We're going to recess this meeting and let me get the design review committee agenda. All right,
It's on your, it's in your packet.
it's in your packet.
Oh, we got a nice.
There's, yeah, there's the rendering,
It's on my computer screen. Thank you.
We'll have the design review committee agenda in your packet. So, Kingston Springs Design Review Committee meeting for October 13th will be called to order. Thank you. Roll call of voting members: Keith Aldridge's absent, Tony Campbell's absent, Tony Gross,
Here.
Mike Hargis is absent, Lauren Hill here, Brian McCain is absent, Mike Patnode, I'm here, Chuck Slater.
Here.
Todd Verhoeven.
Here.
Okay, non-voting staff: Sharon Armstrong,
Here.
John Lawless.
Here.
Jennifer No.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. And you have before you the October 14th, 2021 Design Review Committee meeting minutes. Do we have a motion on those?
Move to approve.
Do we have a second? Second. Okay, all in favor of approving the October 14th, 2021 Design Review Committee minutes?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right, those are approved. Now, you have today's meeting agenda, Design Review Committee meeting agenda before you. Do we have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right, today's agenda is approved. Old business, none. New business, Tyler Technologies, East Kingston Springs Road, consideration of proposed building materials, landscape plan, photometric plan, and we're to make a recommendation to Kingston Springs Regional Planning Commission. So,
We got all that now.
I know.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, with your permission, we'll start with these one item at a time. On the top of the list. Yes. All righty. I'm still trying to find it. What's the first item on your agenda?
Building materials.
Building materials. In
Okay.
front of you are these three little packs. We thank you very much for doing it this way. Sometimes applicants actually bring the building materials. Which is fine too. Right, either way. So in your packet, this is the proposed design of the building, as you can see. It is modern scale, color inoffensive. It doesn't violate any of our color standards, and it's, I won't say it's consistent, because I don't know how you stay consistent with Sonic. But, well, I mean, it's really hard to maintain consistency with something that's that unique. So I don't have any issues with the exterior of the building. It contains metal and a mix of stone and metal and other elevations on it. So I don't have any problem with the way that it looks. I really like the way the signage is integrated on the front. I think it's low footprint and inoffensive to people. So any questions about the building? And you have blown up elevations as well. So these are all building materials. In your design review suggestions, it states that you cannot have an uninterrupted metal plane at the base of a building on either elevation that faces the street. So if this is the corner, it can't just be plain metal. You can see that that has been broken up by other building materials. The question for you is whether or not these materials are acceptable to the design review committee. That's the only motion and vote you have on this particular item.
Concrete, no wood and stone, is what it looks like. And glass.
I also like to break up glass on design elevations too, so it lets light in. Which reduces the need for lighting during the day. And again, only the elevation at the rear is comprised of all metal, but it's broken up. Landscaping and windows.
So would that be actually the Sonic turnaround and their dumpster right about there?
That is where it's located. And I'm not picking on the Sonic.
The last page, use all the
I think this
materials
might be,
section listed.
an improvement over the facades that we usually see.
Oh, okay. You see the last page has
The
the
last page has all your
materials.
materials.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, the breaking up the material on that metal surface really makes it
It's nice looking
striking.
building.
Yeah.
Makes it striking.
What type of business is this?
Tyler Technologies manufactures wiring harnesses for kiosks.
Okay.
And so, for a very specific use,
Yeah, I looked them up.
correctional facilities. So kiosks that are in correctional facilities that the inmates use, they manufacture the wiring harnesses for them.
Are they gonna require, I'm just curious, like, fiber network?
Gentlemen, do you need fiber optic network capability for your business?
We'll probably get the high-speed internet as possible. I know Dixon Electric is bringing in fiber.
That's a couple years away, probably.
Yes, but so right now we'll probably use Comcast. Right now.
Okay, I was just curious. I wish you did, it would force the issue more into Kingston
Yes,
Springs.
I would rather go with Dixon Electric with fiber optics. Yes,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
as soon as that happens, we'll be switching over.
And that's the reason why we like Lauren. She thinks through, I'm serious, she thinks through things. If you want to attract quality businesses, your internet speed and reliability and stability is becoming more and more of an issue. Some places are really fortunate. On the north end of the county at Pleasant View, they went through several years ago, and they now have extraordinarily quick fiber optics underground all across the north end of the county. So Dixon Electric probably still somewhere between 20 months and 2 years out for theirs.
Yeah.
Dixon Electric.
I was like, sign me up!
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
right.
saw the postcard.
But once they get it, if you ever use it, you'll never get it.
Hurry up.
I live in a county where they did 1,000 megabytes wall to wall.
Yeah, so we're looking
And
at
it's
material
rural, and
design,
that's developed in here.
making
So,
recommendations.
yeah, staff recommendation for this one.
And the
is
photometric plan, you looked at that?
done, yes,
Okay.
that course I took 2 years ago really came in handy.
All right.
It took 9 hours this time.
So do we have a motion then on this plan?
Motion to approve materials,
To recommend.
motion to recommend to ourselves,
the planning
That's right, to the planning commission, approval of materials.
Materials, landscape, and photometric plan.
Landscape,
second that.
photometric, and materials.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? Okay, so now we will adjourn the design review committee meeting. And I will reconvene planning commission meeting. And now we will consider the design review committee approval of building materials, landscape plan, and photometric plan. And our motion would be to approve it.
That's correct.
I don't know what those people were thinking, honestly.
I don't trust them. Okay.
It's much like a zoning recommendation. You can always turn it down, but I would hazard a guess that's probably not going to happen.
It's a lot like the episode of The Office.
I make a motion to accept the recommendation of the design review committee on approving the building materials, landscape plan, and photometric plan.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, motion passes. All right. Anything else in new business? I see we have some discussion items.
We do, but we're going to make that really brief. I promise.
Okay.
Very brief. For a couple of Thank you, gentlemen.
Caleb, good to see you.
Mike, good to see you.
All right, take care.
Come visit.
All right.
For the last couple of months, I think this discussion has kind of rattled around about reducing our requirements for setbacks for location of driveways, sidewalks, buildings, structures, all sorts of things. At the request of Mr. McCain, we have undertaken this discussion. Currently, our minimum setback is 10 feet. And that's not the zoning setback, that's the minimum setback for anything attached to the ground. Mr. McCain, at the last meeting where this was briefly discussed, asked the city attorney for the definition of attached to the ground. It's a driveway. It's field lines for a septic tank. It's anything that's permanently attached to the ground.
A fence would.
Right now, our ordinance requires 10 feet minimum space. Why is that? Well, in some lots, and Jennifer and I discussed this briefly today, that may work out perfectly well for your driveway and my driveway to just slap right up next to each other on that property line. In other cases, it may not. There may be topographical issues, there may be a survey issue, there may be an encroachment issue, so staff has always taken the position that that minimum 10 feet is in there for a reason.
And is that the lateral boundary you're talking about? You're not talking about from the road right of way, are you?
No, this has nothing to do with, so your side boundary, where the
Side boundary,
driveway
okay,
goes
right,
in, there is a
okay.
minimum of 10-foot setback for anything that's permanently affixed to the
Okay.
ground. And if you will think further back to the lots that were owned by a gentleman that was in the growth boundary that wanted to split the lots, and the septic was proposed to go on the front wall to wall across the lots. TDAC requires 10 feet away from the property line for a reason. And we require a minimum setback for the installation of something permanent for a reason. There may be gas lines, there may be water lines, there may be other reasons not to locate concrete on top of it. So in cases, if we eliminate that minimum setback on that sideline, and a water line or a gas line goes through there, you're literally going to issue a permit to pour concrete on top of utilities or a drainage ditch. So you were not on the planning commission when this occurred, but you remember the lengthy protracted discussion we had about septic tanks going wall to wall and drainage lines needing to be there, and the reservation of that setback for the future use of utility lines. It's there for a reason. So for the driveway, because it's your access, 10 feet away from that side boundary is sufficient. But for the location of structure of any other type, it's going to stay within the setback of the zoning ordinance. If we open the store, we can never close it. And it will apply in every single situation. So if there are circumstances due to topography, slope, some other issue, that can be reviewed by the Board of Zoning Appeals and would only be applicable to that particular situation. It would not be district-wide. To lessen these now would affect the entire district. And what you're going to end up with is saddleback driveways and a lot of arguments.
How do
So-
fences fall into that discussion? How do fences fall into that discussion? A fence?
Fences.
Fences, you can fence on your boundary line, but you have to keep in mind, and we advise everybody when they do that, when you fence on a boundary line, it becomes a common fence. It's no longer your fence. So if your neighbor can do whatever he wants with his side of your fence, so we
If it's on the
advise.
boundary, yeah.
But technically, you can fence your boundary line.
Okay.
We have some subdivisions where you're not allowed to fence in the front because they have HOA and other restrictions. But you can put a fence on your boundary line as long as you know where the markers are. And I visited a site today where that became the topic of discussion, where they had a boundary survey from back in the day. No other plat had ever been done. The degree of error on a boundary survey is pretty significant. You're allowed to, because they were done, the deeds were written back in the day. When you read a deed and it says 13 chains and 14 poles, it was literally a chain and a pole that they measured it with. So as lots became smaller, the degree of accuracy had to become finer. So if you're on a small city lot, and even now, even with surveys, we still get disputes between not only property owners, but surveyors as to where the line is. So this 10-foot setback is here. I don't mind allowing them to do it up to that 10-foot line, but beyond that, you're really risking issuing a permit that may be on somebody else's property.
How
Now, if
far
your
up?
fence isn't more than 6 feet tall, we don't have to issue a permit.
Okay.
It's only if it's a structural fence or has the ability to collapse and cause injuries. We don't even review the ones that are normal fences. So for the driveways and other things, I don't want to reduce our minimum setback below 10 feet. If you drive through neighborhoods now, and that's your homework for next month, drive through, pick a neighborhood, the Woodlands, whatever, and see how close people are putting things to their side boundaries. And so what happens then is your storage shed and my storage shed meet. There's no separation for fire. So there's a reason why it's there. I would like for it to remain. That's my recommendation.
Yeah, and I concur. Especially when you have a side setback and there are discrepancies in surveys and you put something there and then it ends up being on an adjoining landowners. And we have that exact situation on 2 properties in Ashland City. And then the city gets in the middle, then they end up in litigation, we're smack in the middle of it. And what I had told Sharon, if there are some lots that you may have to, that 10 feet is pretty stringent because of the topography of the lot or the size of the lot or whatever the circumstances are, but that's what the Board of Zoning Appeals is for. And if you have some kind of special lot, that's exactly what governs the Board of Zoning Appeals to make a variance. And so instead of making it a blanket across the city, I think it would be better to do it on a case-by-case basis if there is a special situation and that they need a variance.
Everybody good? The other thing that frequently comes up in my world is I get calls and complaints because someone has poured a driveway and they crushed the pipe of the driveway on the other side getting it in, and then we get to listen to that. My neighbor put his new driveway in and now he's on my property with his turnout and he smashed my pipe and now the water's backing up into my yard. I hear that a lot. So the minimum is there for a reason. It's not the 20-foot, or 15-foot that's normally required for a setback for your structure, for your building, but it's enough to keep that separation, to keep issues from occurring.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes.
No action, that was just for
No,
discussion.
this was, I promised you at the
Okay.
last meeting I would bring back information and I would discuss it with the city attorney, and I am done, so.
Thank you. Anything else, John?
No, sir.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.